Grown Up Show, where being a grown up is always up for debate. My name's Danny Barros, alongside my longtime buddy Anthony Hall.
Hey, what's up?
Here we go, man. Big day. Kickoff of a new podcast, episode 1 coming at you. Today's the day where we dive in.
Yeah, man, I'm excited. We've been planning this for a long time. You've been talking about it for years, to be honest. I've been the one that's
trying to get somebody on
procrastinating.
board for years, and you finally took the
I know,
plunge, man. I appreciate
I
it.
did. But no, it's cool. It's cool to finally be here, especially over the past couple of months with all the work and meetings we've done, and just kind of see what we wanted to do and where we got. It's just like right now, I'm giddy right now, dude.
Oh yeah, I mean, me too. This is uncharted territory for sure. I mean, I've never done something like this in my life, and I'm excited about it. I mean, it's like as I mature into adulthood, I feel like I stay more in tune with what's happening in the world and news and sports and life and everything that's going on, and you formulate some opinions. It's time to talk about it.
Yeah, and I definitely agree. And I have minimal background with or experience with I stream video games on Twitch here and there. I've done it for over almost 5 years, but at my own kind of pace. But I've learned how like that whole social aspect kind of works. And even though like my following is pretty much nothing, I have my little tiny community that I love. But I'm excited for you to get a taste of what that's like, and having like just people that relate with you, that aren't your real life in your face friends. Like it's gonna be cool to see how you enjoy it. Something I love, I'm very passionate about. I don't go by the rules on Twitch, so I don't. That's why my following is very small. I don't do all the social media stuff and all that. I just hit live, play my games, and yeah. But it's cool, and this is gonna be very different. I think it's gonna be more relatable, and I'm just eager to see where it goes. But the biggest thing for me is, which I'll let you touch on, but I'll start it off. The biggest thing for me at this is I'm just excited because of where we are in our lives now, that we have an excuse to talk every week. We haven't done that in a long time. I'll let you take over and explain why, but that's the biggest part for me, really.
Well, yeah, I mean, here we are doing a podcast, and it's like, whereas in, a previous life, we might have just gotten together for a beer and hung out and watched a sporting event or done something like that. But a couple reasons. COVID-19 makes it a little hard to get together and watch a sporting event, but also you and I being longtime friends for over 20 years, and a lot of our lives have been intertwined over those years. You and your family recently moved and relocated to Portland, which is great, but, as us being close friends, it definitely changes things. And so this is one of those ways for us to maintain that relationship, have an excuse to continue to at least hang out for an hour or two every week and have a virtual beer and, talk about what's important to us and what sports are going on, and just check in really, and just see how everyone's doing and see how the families are up to. And it's just, technology, man. It's making everything possible for us.
Yeah, definitely. Both of us are Bay Area natives, born and raised in Pacifica, just south of San Francisco, a few miles. And yeah, just over a year ago, my wife and I got an opportunity with the company we work for to move up to Portland, open up a new site. And it just, it was kind of hard to say no. You were one of the people I really talked about it, because, we were going to have that separation anxiety, I guess.
Yeah.
So because we did do a lot together, including, one of my favorite things in my life, coaching T-ball with you. So amongst other things, but it's something that, besides some hiccups with the house we bought, it's really been a good experience. But I think the biggest thing that I do miss is the closeness with my friends. Not only you, other friends as well, but you're definitely one of the main ones. Where it just we're both in our mid 30s. We have young kids. Our life's consumed by kids and kids stuff.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, it's cool that we get to chat, man.
Yeah, no, I'm excited. And just to give a little bit more background about our relationship, why don't we, tell everybody like first impressions of each other, what's something that you vividly remember, that first memory of each of us, just to kind of give you that context of how we met, why we're friends, and how far back this really goes. So I know for me, it's like I know we hung out before this, specifically to, watching some WWF and whatnot. But
Mhm.
I know, just like whenever I think back, like as far as I can go, the one thing that comes to my mind is I think we were like sophomores, dude, and we're just in the hallway where everyone has our lockers in school. And I remember you like like showing off your brand new like back tattoo that you got, and like we're all sophomores, and not very many people who are like 15, 16 years old have a lot of tattoos. So I was like, whoa, my god, this dude got a tattoo. This is crazy. Like his parents let him get a tattoo. Like, oh my god, like wow, dude, can I touch it? Was that crazy? What's it? Did it hurt? Like
Oh
everyone had all these
god.
questions. You were the big dog on campus for like 10 minutes right there. It was so
A
cool.
solid 10 minutes and then never again, right? Yeah, that not one of my proudest moments, but a 15-year-old with his
Whatever
last
happened
name
to that
plastered
tattoo? Is it
across
still
his
here?
back. I mean, partially it's faded quite a bit, but that's what happens when you go into a tattoo chop shop as a 15-year-old with a fake ID that literally looks like a piece of someone scribbled on a piece of cardboard, and you go up to apprentice, and the apprentice gives you the side eye and goes, "Screw it, what do you
Yeah,
want?"
I
So
need to work.
it's not my proudest tattoo, but to be honest, out of almost half my body's tattooed, and I think I only have one tattoo that I really enjoy. So we'll save
Hey,
those tattoo stories for another time.
yeah, I mean, it just means you have so many cool stories to tell.
They're not cool stories, man. That's funny though, dude. That's a good one. Yeah, I remember
Yeah,
that. I was really excited about it, and it's. I mean, it's definitely. It's one of those standard tattoos, name across her back. Everyone has it.
yeah.
I get the comment like, "What do you forget? You forget your name all the time," So, which I love when
Hey,
people tell me that,
yeah,
because it's like, oh, I can't see it anyways, so it
yeah,
doesn't do me any good either way.
yeah.
If
It's
I
not like
forgot it or not,
probably
it's
just
not
a
like I could look
reminder.
look over my shoulder and be like, "Oh yeah, that's right. That's what my name is." So,
Yeah, it's not exactly a reminder.
yeah, that's funny though. So I have a memory of you that goes back a little farther than that. I'm pretty sure, and I could be off a little bit, but I feel like we first really met the summer, going from 8th grade into our freshman year of high school.
Yeah,
So when I was in elementary school, I went to Valley Mar Elementary in Pacifica. It was like 7th and 8th grade was one class, 32 kids, right? Real small class. I didn't really know too many people outside of my class, but I used to throw uh, WWF at the time. Now it's WWE, pay-per-view parties with all my buddies there. And as we started transitioning over to high school, they started playing football. I jumped into football for a few weeks, and then I'll have a funny story we'll share later about my football experience. I'm sure you remember it, but I didn't last in football very long. So, but they started meeting other people, you being one of them, and I'm pretty sure it was one of our buddies, Nick. Asked if he could bring you over, and I was cool with it. And I just remember, I'm almost positive this is the first time we had like our real like interaction. I think we met briefly
yeah,
before, but like
probably.
our real like first long time interaction. And my first impression of you was like a cool dude. This is a cool guy. He's got the bleached tips, got the pookie shells, the pookie shell necklace. Um, just
Yeah,
just
it's the turn of
just
a century. It was like right at 2000, man.
oh yeah,
It
man.
sounds like a pretty cool outfit.
Just super cool. And you know what? The time came shortly after that where I got the bleach tips, and I'm pretty sure I got that from you, dude. I think you were one of the originators of the bleach tips.
Yeah,
And then it hit our high school like a wave, right? Everyone had the bleach tips.
yeah.
But yeah, I just remember like seeing you and just like, oh dude, this guy this is a cool dude. Not like in a like, oh cool bro, you're so cool bro way, but like I legitimately thought like, oh, this guy's cool as shit. And sure enough, 20 years later, I wasn't wrong. So
Yeah, I mean, well,
um
and if you couldn't tell, I thought the same thing, man. Yeah,
I mean, most people that wear Pookie shell, am I even saying that right? Pookie shell necklaces.
I believe it's
They-
a puka
Oh,
shell.
puka. Excuse me,
Yeah,
puka
but
shell necklaces. They're usually pretty cool dudes. So,
yeah, you can
but
find them a lot of times on the islands.
oh my gosh, dude, yeah. But that was it for me. And then I think we just hit it off from there. Um,
I know. Now we're all grown up. We got kids. We've got wonderful wives. We each got houses we gotta take care of. It's like we're definitely living the grown up life, and these days we're living it, sheltering in place of all things.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Yeah.
How you guys holding up there, dude?
We're doing all right. I mean, so I always feel hella guilty because you know this. Like I'm a huge hermit. I'm a huge homebody. So where everyone else is like confined to their house, like miserable, I'm like, this is the best.
Yeah,
Man.
no,
Like
that's how you feel.
now I have an excuse to stay here, right? Like I'm loving it. But no, it's actually, to be honest, for me, it's actually finally starting to get to me a little bit.
Yeah,
Because I am a hermit, but I still like to go out. I'd love to bring the kids to the park and stuff. Like we have a park down the street here that's really nice, and we have been able to do that. But and my wife is struggling a bit. My wife is one of the strongest people I've ever met in my life. I know you're supposed to say that about your wife, but yeah, mine truly is. She's such a badass because we work for the same company, but we have very different roles. She's a little bit more flexible. So like during the day right now, the kids aren't in school. Like she mans with the help of my mother-in-law, but she mans all three kids because I have to be a little bit more focused on what my role is with work. So she's juggling our youngest. We just had our third boy. He's 4 months old, so she's juggling nursing him and going through his little growth spurts and all that stuff that newborns or young not toddlers but infants go through.
yeah,
Then juggling Nate, who is my 7-year-old, who just today actually was his last day of school, even though he hasn't been in school. But like, there's still she's
right. Yeah.
juggling, doing all the little
There's schoolwork to
online
be done.
schoolwork segments and stuff that they set up. And then in between, we got Luke, who's 4, who just adores his big brother and wants to do everything with him all day long. But Nate has to do his own thing, so she's juggling all this stuff. And then they're getting a little stir crazy too. Where we bought this house a year ago. We had some problems, so we kind of got screwed on it a little bit. But we have a lot of construction going on. The backyard's tore up. You've seen, I've been showing you. I've been doing this little yard project, so it's like we can't even really comfortably enjoy our backyard, which sucks. And now it's like the weather's starting to clear up. So I think that's where it's really starting to dwell on us is that we have a nice big house. This house is great. It's a good size. There's plenty of indoor space, but it's our nature to want to get outside too, as just human
Yeah,
beings.
you don't
And
want to be inside for so long.
yeah, and I always joke about being a hermit, and I'm a big gamer. I mean, you can see that my nerdy computer behind me and everything, but I do enjoy the outdoors as well. And not being able to go do like the sports with Nate and Luke, or go to the park because the parks are closed and all that. It's definitely challenging. But it kind of it is what it is. We deal.
Yeah, we gotta
So
make it happen.
yeah.
Yeah, it's been interesting over here. I mean, I mean, it really flipped work upside down. I mean, I've never really had a job where I working from home was really been an option. It's always kind of you had to kind of be there. And I mean, this definitely made everybody be flexible, and it turns out that I can, work from home at some capacity. But I do go into the office, from time to time because there's still things that I need to check on physically, with the nature of the job that I do and whatnot. Um, but yeah, I mean, it really put a damper on, you know, 2020, so to speak. I mean, we were
Mhm.
just gearing up, getting ready to play Little League again, and getting excited. My oldest was moving up to a new division, and kids were going to start pitching to other kids, and it was, we were really looking forward to it. And we didn't even get to play our first game. There were a couple teams, I think, the way the season fell, where they got to play like one game, and then this whole thing started. We didn't even get to play a single game, and so it was such a bummer. But we were holding out. We were trying to see if we can get the season, rebooted at some point, but just didn't work out. And I think it's just better for everybody to we punt on this year, and we regroup, and hopefully we come back COVID free next year, and we can make this happen. And but that's just only one element of it too. Like you mentioned, school. It's like the kids are doing the homeschool thing now, or distance learning as they call it, and it's really interesting, and it's not easy. I'll tell you. And
No.
and like you said, my wife too has been a warrior through this and taking on way more additional tasks than she already has to do with a 24/7 job. And so it has definitely taken its stressful toll on all of us, and I think we're at that point where we're all just hoping that it we can get through this, and we're starting to ease things up. We just hope we don't have to tighten them back up at some point, and hopefully that we're all done with this, because we spend a lot of time outside. My kids love going to the skate park all the time. Every
Yeah.
day after school, they would be like, "Oh, we go to the skate park. We go," like, or like Sunday mornings was our thing. We'd go there every morning. We had a group of dads and other young kids, and try to get there before some of the teenagers would show up after they slept in around 10, 11 o'clock. So that we weren't stepping on each other's toes or anything like that. So just not being able to really do sort of what we're normally used to doing or what we have looking forward to. It's like it's really interesting having a calendar that's just completely blank, and you can't really put anything on it because you're not really allowed to have events right now, and there are nothing to go to. I
Yeah.
mean, you might be able to like go camping or do some stuff like that, which we're trying to do, but it's just hard, man. It's really hard. It's hard even trying to find activities that even feel safe during this whole thing, and or that you can go out and be out but not around a ton of people and still feel comfortable and do that. So I mean, we've been trying to find like the vacant parking lot and skate and ride bikes and play catch and do whatnot, but you can only do that so many times.
Yeah.
It's getting hard. You know.
Yeah. You just had a question pop in my head. Did you have anything like major planned that you had to cancel because of this?
No, just baseball really, because I mean, both my boys play baseball, and I'm involved in coaching both teams, and I'm also involved with the league, and so my spring was pretty much spoken for. I didn't really have a lot of additional plans. I mean, we do love to go up to the snow and do some snowboarding in the wintertime. We try to get that in January, February, before March when the season really begins. And we were able to do that, thankfully. We got
Yeah.
in um, like mid-January. We got a nice little 2 or 3 days in, which is cool. Because like ironically, there wasn't really a decent winter anyway. They didn't really have a big snowpack. And I think from January, I think all of February was pretty much dry up in Tahoe. Like there wasn't even like many storms, and so
Yeah.
everything was melted. It was almost like spring conditions in January. So we were even lucky to get in under those circumstances, and then the COVID thing hits, and then no one's really going up after that. So,
Yeah.
um, fortunate we got to carve a few turns on the mountain this year, but
Yeah.
hopefully we get to do some more next year.
Yeah, yeah. The only thing that we had was we had a whole trip planned to fly back down to the Bay Area for Jack's baptism, just to
Oh,
keep
okay.
with the
The
same
church
flow
and
of
stuff.
having them in the church that my wife's whole family kind of it's whole her thing. I'm not very religious, but we had to cancel that. But luckily we got like all our money back. We had it was literally planned, dialed in the flights. They were gonna fly down. I was gonna drive down because I still have like the last thing left down in the Bay Area of mine is my motorcycle, my stunt bike,
Mhm.
and I was gonna pick that up, bring it up, and almost at the last second we had to cancel that. But luckily, the flights they fully refunded us. Then we had
That's cool.
one of those things where you can rent a house from someone. What is it called?
Oh, the
Yeah,
Airbnb.
thank you. We had Airbnb.
Yeah.
They fully refunded us. I think they kept like $200, but I mean, it was whatever. Considering like how much it was gonna be.
Yeah.
So that was really the only major thing
You
we
feel
had to.
weird though, that like you were renting an Airbnb like where you used to live.
I know, yeah, yeah, a little odd, but yeah, we're just lucky that we got pretty much all our money back, and it's something that we can do a little bit later down the road. But that was really the only major thing that we had canceled. We had some plans like during the summer to go to the beach here and stay in a place, but we didn't. We were just like that was just a thought. It wasn't something we had started like planning yet. So, but yeah, man,
Oh,
it's
I
just
know.
it's really, and now it's like it's to the point where you don't really want to plan anything because we don't know what's going to happen. There's a lot of the chatter about a second wave. um I don't know about you, but I feel like we're already starting to see that a little bit from what the research I do. It looks like
Yeah,
some states are
there's
starting to
been a
see
spike,
some spikes. Yeah. um
subtle, but they're there, and it's not to be ignored. It's a serious situation. I mean, basically the whole world went on quarantine,
yeah.
from this virus that came about a few months ago. So it's definitely not to be ignored or taken lightly. But um, I think we've all gotten pretty smart about it. We've been forced to over the last several months. So,
Mhm.
hopefully that, I know there's a lot of protesting and stuff going on. So there's a lot of gathering out there,
Yeah.
which is all, well, for the greater good. And I'm all in
Oh yeah.
support of it. I think these protests are long overdue and definitely necessary. But they do bring that sort of concern. But I guess it's for what they stand for. I think it's a trade off that I'm willing to entertain right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, of course, it couldn't have come at a worse time with COVID and everything, but for what it is and the reasons for the protests, I mean, if you
Yeah.
really think about it, for the Black or African American community, and any time is a worse time
Oh
for
yeah.
the
I
history of
mean,
it, right? So, I mean,
mm,
it's not like they were gonna start this just on a whim. Something horrible had to happen to wake up the world, which is sickening to think of, considering that we're in 2020, and
yeah.
this stuff is still going on. And I know, like, and I'm pretty sure I can speak for you as well, but definitely, correct me if I'm wrong. We kind of grew up in a bubble a little bit around racism because we were raised in an area where there's so many different ethnicities.
Yeah.
Um, just the Bay Area is just it is a place full of people from everywhere and anywhere. Like we grew up in Pacifica, which is largely white, but we still had our African American friends, our Asian friends, especially as we got into high school, where
Yeah.
our high school was Terra Nova in Pacifica, and they shuttled in people from South City, um, Burlingame, San Bruno. So like we got hit with a heavy dose of ethnicity with the Tongans, Samoans, some more African Americans, um, Mexicans. Like I mean, you name it. We had it at Terra Nova, which is it's kind of funny if you think about it, because Pacifica is really kind of like a little white town on the coast. It's kind of unique how it fits into the Bay Area. But we grew up around all
Oh
these
yeah.
different people that for me, and I'm pretty sure you too. Like, yeah, I knew about racism growing up. I knew what it was, but it was something that we never really dealt with because of how we were raised. And also who we were raised by. Like your parents are absolutely amazing. I was raised by my grandparents, who are two hippies. Like they had people, they had friends of all different colors, shapes, sizes that
Yeah.
would stay at the house and stuff, like.
Yeah, I mean,
So
Pacifica has definitely been a great place to grow up, and and when it comes to this sensitive topic, it's I look back and it's like a lot of times growing up, it's like now I kind of realize that I was so naive to really think, yeah, we learned about racism and what it is and all that kind of stuff, and I thought that how progressive things were in the 90s and early 2000s, that we were really past all that stuff. But um, but that's just me being ignorant and me being naive to the whole thing. And we're not, and we haven't been for quite some time. And a lot of things continue to happen repeatedly in the same settings, over and over. And it's just not right.
yeah.
And these things need to be addressed. They need to be talked about. I think a lot of people need to listen, even myself included,
Oh yeah.
about what's happening, because no matter how many times this topic resurfaces itself, um, you know, time goes on and it seems like the narrative moves on, but the problem itself never really gets resolved.
Yeah.
And so I feel like we're finally at a point with, yeah, there's been some really terrible events that have happened with the death of George Floyd and a lot of other, African Americans that have died at the hands of police before him.
Hmm.
And enough's enough. And you're seeing the American people come out, and even people from other countries standing up for this, because this is something that just can't happen. And we need to put an end to it, and everybody with a voice needs to say something about it.
Yeah.
And if you don't know enough about it, myself included, it's time to listen. It's time to do whatever you can to support.
Yeah. I think you kind of nailed it there. Especially for people like me and you. Like, we are, the stereotypical white male. Um, white privilege is a real thing with us. We're aware of it. More so for, now seeing what's going on in the world. And it's really like, it's been really an eye opener for me. Especially because I have actually seen racism firsthand. And I'll share that in a second. But it, even with that, my face to face experiences with it, I still never really like saw it such a large scale as as it's been being brought today. And it really trickles back to so many things like you learn growing up and stuff, where history classes and stuff, and they touch on certain things, but a lot of the real deep stuff is not really shared in it, and it's on you to kind of educate yourself. And that's where, for me, with since watching the video of George Floyd, I've been oddly quiet, which is rare for me. I'm a chatty person. The reason for that is because of who I am and what I look like, and knowing that my voice can get to people that an African American voice can't. So the way to use that to its best ability, I need to be educated. So I've been watching, like, I'm not very political. I stay away from the news outside of very important things, because nowadays, you don't know who to believe. Everything's opinionated. It's something that, as a father, our time is so filled with things that I don't have the time to be like, where do I go to believe what in this? But lately I've been all day, every day. I'm listening to both sides. I'll chime into CNN, I'll chime into Fox News, because they're so polar different. I can listen to them both. They're both sides I agree with and disagree with things, but it's when you get those opinions, you can kind of start to form your own mindset on things, and you can get the reality when you listen to both sides. Even though, and we're not gonna go political right now, but you listen to the craziness on both sides, and they both have their issues, right? But you can form your own. You can kind of make your decision by hearing both sides, and I've been looking elsewhere too, because those are definitely not the only two news places, and it's very dangerous to think that. But it's just really educated, and even going back more, like I've been picking up books and stuff, and reading a little bit about more history, and just, I feel like the best way I can help is by really trying to understand it as best as I can. And I'm learning, and I think that's a big thing to do. Is like, accepting that it very much is a real problem still. And I just want to educate myself to make sure that I'm helping in the best way possible with the knowledge that I have, and the power I unfortunately do carry as a white male.
No, yeah, you're absolutely right.
So, so with that, I'd love to share a story about a friend of ours, that we grew up with. That was my first real racial encounter, and I'm about 99% sure it was his first like real racial encounter too. I could be wrong on there, so don't quote me, but I think it was his first real encounter too. We grew up with a friend of ours, Eric. He was half African American. He was big into cars. His father owned a body shop. He worked there. He had some really cool cars. One day, he came. This was, I think, just after we graduated high school. He came to pick me up. We were, just going to drive around. He picked me up. He had this really badass, like,
It was a Blazer, right? It was
I think it was either a pickup or a Blazer, like 80s Chevy Blazer or pickup. But it was like fully custom, everything shaved. It was just this like crazy pearl apple green color, on the air ride. It was so cool, dude. I think like 22-inch rims or something like that. So, he just picked me up. We're gonna go cruise, grab some beers, do what just out of high school kids do. So, he picked me up, and as we're leaving, so Valimar, it's one way in, one way out, right? And it's just long straightaway. It's about probably, I don't know, just over a quarter mile, half mile maybe. And so and it's really bumpy, right? So he's on this. We're in this Blazer. I think it's a Blazer. Let's go with Blazer just for the story's sake. So we're cruising down the road, and we're going like 10, 15 miles an hour. We're not like going
No one's in a
crazy
hurry.
under the
Yeah.
speed limit. We're just cruising. Looking good. But two young single dudes. Thinking they look cool. you know.
Hell yeah.
Um, and this dude comes up behind us, and he goes to pass us, and Eric, hits the gas a little bit and blocks him from passing us. We laugh, we chuckle, we see him in the mirror, he's flipping us off, he's all pissed off. We didn't think anything of it, just messing around a little bit, just being some jackasses. So we get to Highway 1, we turn and we go on our way. Didn't really, after we chuckled, we kind of didn't think about it. We went for a drive, and we stopped in your neck of the woods, the back of Lindemar, another little area in Pacifica, where there was a liquor store where there used to be a guy who would take my shitty fake ID and sell us alcohol. So it was like a little shopping center. There was like a little market. Then there was the liquor store, hair salon, couple hair salons, couple other little things. I think there's like a dance studio, whatever. But you could pull up and literally just like double park right in front of the liquor store, which we'd always do. I jumped out, I go in the store. I remember Steve was the clerk's name in the store. So I'm doing my thing, and all of a sudden Steve starts yelling at me, your friend, he's fighting someone. So I turn, I'm like, what? I run out, and right as I get outside, Eric's outside of the Blazer, and this car just peels out and drives off. And I realized it was the dude that tried to pass us. He had followed us, right? And I walk up to Eric, and like, Eric, dude, like this is, and I'm not exaggerating when I say this, Eric was literally one of, if not the happiest guys in the world, right?
Oh, yeah.
Contagious laugh, always smiling, like
No
just
doubt.
the
Yeah.
type of guy you could have the worst day of your life. Like a family member could pass away, he would make you laugh. Like just that type of
Oh
guy.
yeah, for sure.
He was literally shaking. He was so angry, dude. And I walked up, I was like, dude, what happened? The guy had pulled up next to him and yelled, you stupid effing N-word. I mean, I've been through hell with this guy. We went through Johnny's passing together, his father passing away. We'd gotten in some fights with some people before. Like, this is like, one of your brothers in arms, right? Type people.
Yeah.
I've never seen him mad like this ever in my life. Even through those scenarios, Johnny was like a brother to me, and very close to Eric. Like
Right. Yeah.
going through these things, never seen him so distraught as that moment. And I just remember, and like like how you have certain memories in life that are just so vivid. Like I literally remember every moment from getting in the truck to driving off from that. I just remember I got our beers. We hopped in, we went cruising, and we were just quiet. Just I didn't know what to say. He was so like he started tearing up. Like he cried. He literally cried. He was so frustrated about it. So we just kind of were quiet for a few minutes, and then at one point, I believe I said I just looked at him and I said something like, I'm sorry, man. And Eric, being typical Eric, at that point was kind of getting himself together. I just remember him looking at me and saying, and like kind of having that Eric smile and just saying like, what are you sorry for? And I got it. Like, I remember to this day, just like shell shock of the whole scenario and realizing like how it affected him and like knowing, racism or racist history and things, but like just seeing that and how it how it affected him was like a huge eye opener for me. And that, I think that was like a moment in my life where I realized like, yo, this is still a real thing. Still
Yeah.
not, I still didn't realize as to what scale until recent events, but that's what made me realize like, this is a real thing. And just like the thought of like, for me, I could never think of saying something like that to
Oh, I
someone.
know.
And like, there are people out there that always use like, oh, well, it's like them calling you a cracker. It is nothing like that. People call me a
Yeah.
cracker. I laugh. I think it's hilarious. And the reality is because the N word comes with such a negative history, like the worst like the most
Oh yeah.
horrific historical time is what that word's
Everything.
attached to.
Yeah.
Cracker is attached to a white cracker. It has no meaning. It has no depth to it. So like people that say that are just ignorant, you know?
Yeah. I mean,
Like
I think the N word could probably quite possibly be the worst word on the planet that you could
yeah, and, and
probably
and
ever
for
use
me
at any
after
time.
yeah, and for me after experiencing that with Eric, it for me it definitely is the worst word.
Yeah.
Um now this doesn't take away, but I feel like I have to do the story justice and give Eric the justice he deserves. Um that's not the entire story. What I'm about to tell you next doesn't take away in any way what happened to Eric. The reason Eric was outside of his car is this is he worked for a body shop. This was a car that wasn't fully done. He didn't have a working parking brake in it. So he used to have a brick under his seat that he would, put on the brake pedal when he parked the truck. When that dude said what he did, Eric grabbed the brick, got out of the truck, threw it, and hit the dude square in the face. And literally split his face open. I don't remember. I know it was like over 100 stitches in this guy's face, like
Oh my
split right
God.
down, like perfect connection.
He deserved the
Which
stitches.
excuse my language, but fucking golf clap to Eric, dude. Right? Like, and after like I this is the part I'm fairly gray on. I think it was a little bit later in the day the police got involved because the dude had to go to the hospital. It was bad, right?
Yeah.
Um, the police got involved and we ended up having to talk to the police. And Eric was so shook still, he had a hard time. He told what had happened. He told what the dude said, but I was the one that really like kind of filled in the details. And like, even that thinking back, like what, the story that we got was police officer talked to the dude. The guy wanted to press charges on Eric, and the police officer on his own will, without anything from me or Eric, was like, well, you can press charges, but then he can come back and press charges on you for hate crime for using that word, or maybe not hate crime, but whatever. And the guy was just like, whatever. But it often makes me wonder and think back, and I've been thinking about it a lot lately. I haven't had the chance to talk to Eric about it, and I don't really know if I want to, because I don't think that's something that anyone wants to kind of relive.
Right.
But I just often think back, like, I remember I gave the most of the story to the police officer. How would it have been? Would it have been any different if it was just Eric?
Yeah. If he was just
You
by
know,
himself.
like, what if it was just Eric by himself? Could he have gone? Like, there's a high probability that the dude would have pressed charges. Could have said Eric lied, never said anything like that. The cop probably go with that story.
Yeah.
And Eric
Yeah. You never know
serves,
who he'd believe at that point. You
yeah,
know.
and Eric serves jail time or something. I feel like I strongly nowadays, looking back at it, I strongly feel that the fact that I'm a white guy and I was involved and I vouched for Eric, that's why the outcome of the story is, and that's not okay. Like,
No.
that's not
No.
okay, you know?
I mean, you'd
So,
like to think that, had he been alone, just doing something on alone, and in the same circumstance would have happened, that he'd been, treated the same way that he was in that situation
yeah.
by the authorities.
Yeah, and I don't know if he would have been. But it's hard to tell. We'll never know, cuz Eric is also that, like I've said, he's just such a humbling, amazing person that I feel like any words out of his mouth to anybody, including a police officer, would make that person see who this person really is,
Yeah.
He was well spoken and just, such a good dude. But yeah, so just from that experience for me, like I never really had any encounters racism outside of like learning about it in school and stuff. But that experience for me was like a real like kind of wake up call for me, in the sense of like, this is something that is still real today, even though that was what, gosh, 15 years ago, about
Right.
15 years ago.
At least, yeah.
Um, it was just like it was a firsthand experience for me to understand that that racism is still very real. Um, and
Yeah,
it sucks. And
it's still happening.
yeah, and it's a shame. It is absolute shame, and sickening what happened to George Floyd. Um, but it what's come of it is truly amazing, and the fact that we are now 2 weeks, I think, just over 2 weeks from it,
Just a little bit over. Yeah,
and the protests are going strong.
yeah,
Things are changing. Defunding of police agencies are being spoken of, and I think you've got to be pretty ignorant to think like there are not good police officers, but there are definitely some changes need to show up. Thinking of like countries like Japan, who I don't even think they carry firearms. They have like 2 years of training, things like that. Like we need to look at other avenues for change. I saw a sign
oh
the other
yeah,
day that was, and I'm gonna get these numbers wrong, but it was like hairdresser goes to school for like 800 hours, or like two, or maybe it was like 1,500 hours, right?
hmm
Police academy is like 800 hours. Let that sink in. It's like that's terrifying to think
yeah,
that it takes longer to learn how to cut hair than it does to judge someone's life.
oh yeah,
Like
for
that's
sure.
wild. So like I'm all for it 100%. I'm not gonna sit here either and say like I'm haven't made my own mistakes. I am a sucker for, or used to be a sucker for, racial jokes. Even though my favorite one has to do with white people. Still still you want to hear my white racist joke?
It's up to you, man. Go for it, man. Let's hear it.
How do you cut off a redneck's dick?
How?
You kick his sister in the chin. Right? That still doesn't make it okay, but
Right.
like, humor is a healthy medicine, is what I believe.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
in a scenario where you understand what's right from wrong, you know.
Right. Right.
Um
Yeah. No, I definitely think that when it comes to the protest and the need for change, we need a lot of change, and I think the protests need to continue as long as they need to spearhead that change. I don't know what that change looks like systemically. I don't know how it's going to be implemented. But I do know that not all cops are bad cops.
yeah, yeah.
I do know that we need police officers in order to maintain order within our society, and we need those good police officers to be the ones that are on the force, to be the ones that are looking after our communities and can make, proper judgment no matter who it is that's involved in whatever incident that they're responding to.
Yeah,
You
I
know?
I don't know who said it, but some famous person the other day said, that the police officer role is one of those roles where you cannot have the bad apples. It just
No,
it cannot. You can't, absolutely
no,
can't, and we're seeing why right now.
exactly. Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
it just it has you have to be um you have to be a good cop. You have to be perfect in the job, and what the power you hold as a police officer. And it's hard. It's hard because police officers go through a lot of shit. We have friends that are police officers. One of
yeah,
my friends, the only other guy I know longer than you, is a police officer, and like they literally all day, every single day, deal with people lying to their face.
yep,
That is their job. It's just people nonstop trying to get out of shit, trying to spin shit, like pulling people. Like you never know. Like I can only imagine the feeling every single time you pull someone over. Like especially like I have a truck with tinted windows because I tend to mean mug people unintentionally. So, you know, helps me not get flipped off as much. But like I try to put myself in a police officer's shoes as you're walking up to a car. Like you have no idea who is
right,
in that seat. You don't know if it's a 85-year-old lady or some dude that is driving off from murdering someone. Like, you
Right.
have no idea who that is. So, like, they go through a lot of their own shit, and I'm not making an excuse, but like, it's definitely like things need to change on both ends, but heavily, like, we've seen firsthand that there definitely needs to be some kind of reform with our
Well,
police systems.
and this needs to be the priority. I mean, right now, Black lives need to be the priority. And however we need to, rectify the system to make that a priority and to make sure that this isn't just smoke and mirrors and that we're
Yeah,
actually doing something about it. Um, that's where we are. That's the pivotal moment in time that our society is at right now, our country too. Just like we're sort of at this breaking point.
hmm,
I think a lot of things based on our leadership, based on coronavirus, based on police brutality and Black Lives Matter. It's just like there's so many things coming to a head right now,
yeah,
and we have an amazing opportunity with the way that our lives have slowed down through coronavirus to really sort of think about this stuff, take the necessary steps we need to educate ourselves,
yeah,
create a plan, implement this here, and really start seeing some change. And I think it's been really great to see a lot of the athletes sort of come out,
yeah,
because no one's playing sports right now and they've got a lot of time on their hands. But the thing that they have is they have the biggest platform of all to
yeah,
really sort of create more awareness to this stuff, to implement and inject all the different ideas, and they've got a lot of the capital to create foundations and resources out there for these communities, that are even in support of law enforcement, but
yeah,
they're in support of that connection with the communities, and I read about a couple today, just like LeBron James is involved with like the more than an athlete, side of things, and they're doing something that's like more than a vote, because so much of the change has been talked about in terms of okay, well, one of the best ways we need to change is we need to go to the polls and we need to actually like vote the people that we really want to see in office and not just talk about it,
yeah,
or yeah, I don't want that person in office anymore because he stands for this and then we no longer accept that and we never have, and
yeah,
whatever whatever political games you're playing, we need to end that right now. We need to do that, from the masses. You
yeah,
know what I mean? And they
absolutely.
are creating the proper channels and the proper resources to organize this for people who maybe haven't had the ability to go vote or register to vote or to do anything like that, or really understand the importance of voting.
Yeah,
And now we're creating that buzz once again, and hopefully we see some positive movement from this.
yeah, I agree, and it voting is a key factor, and it's funny, like, you always hear the, oh, I'm one vote, I'm one vote, but if 5,000 people are thinking that way, that's 5,000 votes,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's like it really it really is important. It really
Yeah.
is, and I'm one that I'd never voted until um Obama's second term. That was the first time I voted,
Really.
because that's when I started realizing, and that's when we started maturing a little bit.
Right. Yeah.
As the
Yeah.
name of the show
It,
goes,
it comes
it's
in time.
never, you know, we're never
Yeah.
fully grown up, but
It's always up for
when we,
debate.
yeah, but that's for me when I really started realize, kind of checking in on politics and stuff, and,
Yeah.
and understanding that it is kind of important. Not kind of, it's very important. But
Well, but I mean, before we get too grown up about it, like what I want to talk about, what another thing I want to talk about with this whole movement is
yeah,
one of the narratives you've been hearing a lot is how it's the younger generation that's really, spearheading a lot of these protests, or it's them that are really, you know, uh, taking the bull by the horns and really trying to do something about it.
hmm,
And I think there's a lot to be said to that. I think number one, I think they realize how many platforms they have to
yeah,
create a voice and collectively do so.
hmm,
And they're utilizing it. And they are one of the biggest target audiences for most corporations and advertising anyway. And so it's like they have a big sway that they can
yeah,
shift the paradigm. Now the other thing is when you think about a lot of our domestic leaders
Hmm.
in many different capacities in whichever house or side of the house you're on, the average age is well above 70.
Yeah.
And that's also part of the problem.
Yeah.
It's just
That's
like, it's like none of like a lot of that generation, grew up at a time where it was very racist.
yeah.
And so like, but
Segregation and
exactly. So it's like,
absolutely.
it's not really like that, like coincidental
Yeah.
that things haven't changed,
Yeah.
and I think that we need to sort of inject more youth into politics, and by youth, I mean, even in 40s and 50-year-old is
Hmm.
much younger than what we're seeing right now. And that youth, I feel, will align much better with the generation that's coming up and the generation that like we are
Yeah.
that are we're the new 30s and 40s, bro. So it's like we have a big presence in all of
Yeah.
this.
Yeah. And I think I agree 100%. I think our age gap definitely uh, holds a lot of strength and sway as well because, we were raised by people that lived during the segregation years and things like that. But at the same time, outside of the very rural areas, which we're seeing, a lot of lately, like me and you, we talk about this offline and how stupid it is. It's absolutely
Yeah,
stupid that this is the main issue that we're having in 2020.
I know.
We
I
have
know.
computers that are literally in our pockets.
I know.
Why is race even a thought? You know,
It's ridiculous. It really, really is.
um, so
And at a time where
you
COVID-19.
can swipe left or right to decide if you want to go on a date or not. Why is
Exactly. Yeah.
race part of the conversation?
I know.
You know,
I know.
like I just look at all these little ridiculous things that we're capable and able to do, and this is our main problem in the world right now: is how to treat people equally.
Yeah.
Like it's insane. So yeah, no, it definitely has a lot to do with our government and like you said, the people in power, but and it's also hard, like you and I know very well, it's so hard to unlearn things or change your mind on things. And I know you have a couple of points you still want to touch on, but for me a big example is Kaepernick, which we'll get into.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
not the biggest fan of Kaepernick as a football player, and at the start of his protesting, and it took me a while, but I flipped, and I did flip before the whole George Floyd thing, um, and we'll touch on that when we get to it. But it's so hard to unlearn or change your mindset on certain things,
Well, I mean,
and
just to
if we
speak of
have,
how hard it is, look at Drew Brees, dude.
yeah,
I mean, and what I want to highlight with Drew Brees is like here's a guy who's played sports his entire life and has played the sport of football, which I mean, at this stage in the game, white people are the minority in
yeah,
football. I
and
mean, it's like it's a predominantly black league,
mhm,
which there's nothing wrong with that. It's great.
nope,
It's like we've found a system where we don't segregate our leagues any longer, which is fantastic. And we know that we're going to play the person with the best talent, and that just
yeah,
happens to be more black people than white people, which is
yeah.
amazing.
Well, they're
You know,
bigger, faster, and stronger. That's a
yeah,
reality.
but
So
what I'm ashamed of Drew Brees for is that you've been playing sports this whole time, and this is something that I learned as a kid.
mhm,
Playing sports to where, and I feel like this is what helped me a lot with racism. What helped me with embracing different cultures and different ethnicities in this wonderful place that we grow up with in the Bay Area, where it's just a melting pot for different cultures, is that y- you know you all are joining this team, you're on this team, you're playing this sport together, you have a common interest and you have a common goal. And when you put on that uniform, you all are united by these colors, by this emblem, whatever it is,
mhm,
and you are all like working together for a common goal. Now, we learn that in sports at a young age, and that goes on to with us through everything in life. Like now that we're working individuals, like for our job. Like there's people of different races and ethnicities, there's females, males, everything, but we all wear that emblem. We all work for the company. We all
Hmm.
represent the company. We all have a common goal to make the company prosper and whatever, like whatever facet or whatever that looks like, that's what we have. And we learn to work with other people. We learn to embrace their differences, their strengths, their weaknesses, and we make it work. And this sports is the same thing about this. And I just it just baffles my mind that Drew Brees being around all these different people for so many years. He's almost been in the league for 20 years, and
Yeah.
he's been on so many different teams in his life. And these football teams aren't small. They're like 50 guys on the
Yeah.
team, to where it took another one of these incidences, and even 4 years after the whole Kaepernick started his protest, for him just now to realize that this isn't about a flag.
Yeah.
That this is not about a flag. And
Yeah.
if you couldn't realize that before somebody pointed it out to you,
Hmm.
then yes, you are part of the problem.
Hmm.
And you do need to educate yourself, and you do need to learn. I mean, when Kaepernick first started this, it's like we knew it wasn't about the flag. He used the flag as, okay, this is maybe like one of the only moments that I'll be able to present this as a protest.
Yeah.
I'm going to try to do it peacefully, and here's my opportunity.
Yeah.
It's so many of the world or our country, sort of gave him so much backlash because there was a side that really thought they was respecting the flag and our country and what the flag stood for. But it was more than that. It's about what's happening down the street, what's happening in so many different communities. It's not what our soldiers are doing overseas. It's
Yeah.
about what's happening in our own backyards and what our country stands for.
Yeah, and everyone, and I love that it's being brought up again nowadays, but a lot of people tend to forget who told them to kneel. That it was a veteran that told them to kneel, and the reason behind that, which there's hundreds of videos out on that story, and if anyone doesn't know about that happens to come across our show, I highly recommend you do some research on that. But the long story short is, soldiers kneel at fallen soldiers' graves to show signs of respect. One thing. So he took it as, kneeling to show a sign of respect towards the flag in a way. But to also show more than that. And, the flag does have very strong ties to military and stuff. It absolutely does. But, my wife brought up a good point to me the other day that, every branch of the military has their own flag.
Yeah.
So if he was going to disrespect the military, don't you think he would do something with those flags? The flag of the United States of America is representing the country. It's not the flag of the United States military.
Right.
And that's where I needed that check, because I'm very comfortable accepting and expressing that I was at the start very against Kaepernick kneeling because of the military, because my wife's family has deep ties in the military. My family, my great grandfather was a captain of a warship in World War II. But then you start educating yourself and understanding that it's much more than that. He said multiple times, he has no disrespect. He's very grateful to the military.
Yeah,
a veteran was the one that gave him the idea. He was originally sitting.
Right, yeah.
He was originally sitting on the bench.
Well, and to even go back before that, like, he sat, I believe it's at least one game, potentially even two.
I think it was two.
Before it was even brought up that he was sitting.
Yeah.
And that was primarily because he wasn't even dressed. He was still injured at the time, and like he wasn't even an active player. And so
I think it was, and I might be wrong on this, so fact check me, that's all good. I think what brought it up is he was caught in a pan of a camera. Like a camera was panning something and caught him sitting on the bench, and then someone questioned him on it.
Yeah.
So he wasn't the one that came out and was like, "Hey, I'm kneeling to protest." He did it silently, So, but it took me a little while to kind of flip and educating myself. But for the thing that really hit it for me, was how blatantly obvious it is that he has been blackballed from the league. That's when I really started changing my whole opinion on the whole Kaepernick thing, and then really like thinking about it from another mindset. Is when you start seeing these quarterbacks being signed out of retirement, when you've got a guy that's proven.
Yeah.
And this is like, it's hard for me to bring the whole Super Bowl quarterback thing into play. Did he help? Did he bring a team to the Super Bowl? No, he helped bring a team to the Super Bowl. Everyone, I feel like some of my personal frustrations with the whole Kaepernick thing ties in more sports related than race related, which is, I feel like they kind of screwed Alex Smith. Alex Smith
Yeah.
was running that team. He was playing the best he had ever played in his entire life. He got injured. He got better. He was ready to go. They went with the shiny new toy, which is a bandwagon I jumped on. I jumped on the shiny new toy Kaepernick bandwagon, but at the same time, I was like, damn, that kind of sucks. Like Alex Smith, he was rolling with the team. So I mean, I know I sidestep, but that's where like a lot of my frustration and resentment came at the start with Kaepernick, was more because of how he got involved with the team and everything. But yeah, just how blatantly obvious. Like he was good. He's great. Yeah. Okay. So he can only throw 105 miles an hour, but damn, he can run that fast too.
Yeah.
Like he's not the best by far, but he's far from the worst. He's damn good. He's
No, I
definitely.
mean, he's easily today better than at least 5 or 6 of the current backups.
Oh yeah,
in the
absolutely.
NFL,
And that's
at least.
Yeah, and that's where it's like, no matter, like, if you know anything about football, you can know the bare bones. You know damn well this guy belongs on a team, and he's belonged on a team since the very second he was let go from the Niners.
Yeah. So
Like,
one thing, like when he first started this, like I supported the movement. I knew why he was doing it, and I thought it was a good cause.
so let me just
only
step in, because I want
Go
to
ahead.
I want to clarify that I never disagreed with what he was trying to accomplish. Never once. It took me a little while to accept how he was going about it with the flag and everything, but I never once disagreed with what he was trying to bring to light. I just wanted to clarify that.
So me, like I mean, I agreed with why he was doing it. I supported the movement. I thought it was good to bring awareness to all that. When he started to really get tons and tons of backlash and just more and more and more and more and more from all different sides, it was the fan in me that was like, dude, let's tone it down. Like, I still think we can protest. Maybe there's more things we could do off the field, but you could still stand for this. Maybe we could just, be about our business a little bit more, because I wanted him to still be a likable quarterback. I still wanted him to be the franchise for us. I still saw that for him as a fan, as a Niner fan.
Mm-hmm.
But then the more and more that he didn't do that, and he kept pushing even harder with his protest, that's when, to me, it's like, all right, like, I see what you're doing, and I'm 100% behind you. And I think that there was a ton of people who were, and even Nike was, where it's just like, hey, if this does happen to negatively affect you in football, just know that there's a ton of people that are still supporting you, and you can't stop this.
Yeah.
And I give him so much props for continuing to do it up until now.
Yeah.
And now we have another event that happened with the death of George Floyd, and suddenly Kaepernick is right back at the top of what's topical. You know what I mean? And it's just, there he is, and
I saw you slide that in there, by the way.
Yeah. And even and it kind of, because of the whole the gravitas that this has brought on by the nation and the world, it's like it's forced so many people to, I don't know if it's forced them to change their opinion, or it's just changed it for them.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of them have changed their opinion and jumped back in support of him, who may have been against him back then. And it certainly seems like the league itself has made that stance with the statement that Roger Goodell has made and whatnot. I still think there's some ground to cover there,
Mm-hmm.
but I definitely think that the league has made an additional first step than anything that they've ever made in this case.
Yeah, I think Roger Goodell's statement was huge.
Yeah.
Especially coming from him and his history and all of this, and how he's handled suspensions and things like that. Like he's shown himself to be one to play by his rules in a way,
Hmm.
and kind of show that it's his road or no road.
Right.
For it to come from him was, I think, a lot bigger to deep football fans than the masses.
Yeah.
Um,
Absolutely.
and that's for me that, and the way he said it, and the fact that it came out of his mouth directly, um, made me feel like they're serious about this. They're
Yeah.
serious
Yeah.
about making some changes. Um, but that leads to the question of what happens with Kaepernick.
Yeah. I mean, it's still, to some, it's still a radioactive object,
Hmm.
to sign someone like that, magnitude. Um, to others, it might be a good PR move. It might be willing to take it on, because it's going to come with a circus to some degree.
Hmm.
But, in the end, it's about football. If that team is going to sign him, it should be about football.
Yeah,
That
I do agree.
they need him for the position of quarterback, whether it's they're in a want him to compete with a couple guys, or they want him to be their backup, or maybe they're not sold on their starter, and it could be a potential, like right now there's nobody for the Patriots.
Yeah,
No one's solid. I mean, he could easily be a backup there,
yeah.
and even be starting by week 8 if things don't go well, or
If not
um,
earlier. I mean, if he goes to a
yeah,
team that there's a competition at that role, and he does what he has done in the past,
yeah, absolutely.
it's not. I don't think it's out of the realm for him to start week 1. I mean, I know that's a
No,
stretch. I do know
absolutely.
that's a stretch,
Absolutely.
but
Yeah.
I get what you're saying, and I think um you're right. It needs to be football. That's what it is. It needs to be a football decision. But what it would show the world, but the football has taken over as America's sport. You know,
Yeah.
baseball isn't what it is with the youth nowadays.
Well,
It's not
it's
as.
definitely it's a reason they call it at America's pastime, because it's,
Yeah.
the
Um
backseat.
like, I think now Kaepernick being signed would be a huge step forward in all of this. It does kind of make. I have a thought in the back of my head, because I want it. I want it. I want him to be signed. I think a lot needs to play into it. I think first off, he needs to accept that he's got to prove himself. He's been out of the league for over 3 years, which is not his fault. I'm not saying it's
Yeah.
his fault, but that's a long time. That's a long time. He's got to accept the fact that he can't go for that starter money. He's gonna have to prove himself, and then
Yeah.
go from there. But I have this thought in the back of my head. I was thinking about this earlier today. I don't know if this is. I don't know if maybe this has been talked on, but I have one concern with him being signed, um, and that is that if it was to happen, NFL pulls okay, we're done, good. We've shown we got Cap back. Black
Yeah.
Lives Matter. Let's go back to our old ways.
Yeah.
And I would think that they're smarter than that. But I mean, we've seen how they've handled suspensions. They don't learn.
Right.
You know
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
if Kaepernick being re-signed is not the end. It's not. We've won. This is
Right.
the
Yeah.
new. It's a step, and it's a very small step in what's wrong with our country. But it would be such a huge win for the Black Lives Matter movement. It would be a huge win for so much more. Um, and to be honest, it would be the storybook ending.
Well,
You
it'll
know?
be a symbolic first step in a lot of things.
Yeah,
Definitely be a symbolic first step in this 2020 Black Lives Matter movement, because we've been here before.
yeah,
You know,
yeah.
but and I also think it will be a symbolic first step for the league too, to show that they are willing to change and are making change.
Hmm.
But you're right, it doesn't end there, and it can't end there. Now, part of me, like you, I want Kaepernick to be re-signed, and that's what I want to happen.
Hmm.
Now, what I think is going to happen is different. Like I don't believe that he will be signed, just because I don't think that anyone will really take that deep of a flyer off of quarterback who hasn't played in 3 years and comes with all of this.
Mhm.
Especially when you still have guys that are on the market today, like Cam Newton,
Yeah.
that former MVP, went to the Super Bowl. I mean, I think people are going to sign him before they signed Kaepernick.
And
Uh,
that is fair. That is
yeah,
that is fair.
that's a
That's
fair point.
and that's the football move, which is what it should be. You go with the safe bet, which is the guy that's proven himself and has not been out of the league for over 3 years.
Right. Now, but I don't think that just because the NFL won't sign him that he won't work for the league in some capacity. Like I feel like this is, especially after this movement has begun again. If he's going to get signed, this is the year. He's
Mhm.
not gonna like miss this year and then we might get signed again next year. It's like at
Yeah,
some
no,
point
it's
I
something
think
that has to happen now.
yeah. And so what I think is it might not, if he doesn't get signed this year, maybe it's not next year, maybe it's not the year after that. But as part of this movement and his symbolism in the movement and who his history with the league, this would be a good way for the NFL and Roger Goodell to bridge that gap, by bringing him on in some capacity as like a cultural ambassador for making sure there's equality and everything, whether it's hiring of coaches or drafting people or however you do things across the board to make
Yeah.
sure that everything's fair and equal. I mean, what better way to say, hey, we recognize change needs to happen. Let's hire the guy and make him in charge of change who wants to spearhead this protest for the entire world. Let's just bring him on. Who better to be qualified for this than him? And let's make it happen. And then we're gonna also show people that that we were wrong and we have embraced this relationship with him and we've given him control
Yeah.
to do this, you
I
know?
I like that. I really, really do. I think you bring up a great idea. My only defense to that is that he's our age, man. In the quarterback position, like he's realistically in his prime, and the fact that he wants to play. Um, but I can get on board with you 100%. I think that's brilliant, but I just feel like he would want to play.
Yeah, I think he would want that shot first,
Yeah.
you know? And even if it's like, hey, maybe he does get signed and, maybe he does fizzle out in a year or two because it's just not there again and it is about the football or who knows to what
Yeah.
capacity.
I
And then maybe he naturally makes that transition on his own.
yeah.
I do think it'll be a little harder to do at this juncture,
Yeah.
right now.
I
But
I
but
think I think we both can agree that he needs to be involved with the NFL in some capacity.
yes.
If you like that, that will speak so highly to the world if he's involved in some aspect. Like that's how you take that first step. That you took your first step by admitting you're wrong. The second step is correcting it because you have the opportunity to. This is a living person that's still around. It's not George Floyd. There's admitting you're wrong with George Floyd and moving forward and changing. The NFL has an opportunity with a living person to correct that mistake.
Yep, no doubt.
And I think that in whatever capacity it is, the first major step in correcting that mistake is getting him involved in the NFL. Whether it's a team signing him, which I know, and I know it's true. People think it's a cop out, but it's not. It's true that the NFL can't control what a team does. It's up to the teams to decide if they want to sign him, and that is the truth. The NFL can't make a phone call and say,
Well, yeah.
"Hey, Mr. Belichick, you need to sign. You don't have a quarterback that anyone knows anything about. You need to sign Kaepernick." It doesn't work that way.
Mhm.
But I think that it's no secret. There's been a role for him on a team every year he's been out of the league. It's just been
Yeah.
filled by some joke off the couch that's been retired for X amount of years because no one wants the controversy. But that's turned now. George Floyd's murder was the straw that broke. You
Yeah.
know, And
It, it was.
it's
It
now
was.
flipped to the masses. Of course, we still have the idiots out there that, I saw in the news earlier, some idiots kneeling on each other's neck or whatever, in during a parade is, some rule morons. But it's flipped to the masses to where now this isn't a controversy. This is something that will be a game changer. So yeah, we'll bring a lot of press and something to a team. Yeah, but that negative press is not there anymore. It'll be positive. So
Yeah, well, I think I see it this other way too, where it's like, um, it's one thing to talk about change and we want to see change, and rather than just, okay, we're going to implement this plan that's going to do this, that, and the other thing, and it's going to have all these different like overall benchmarks. Okay, well, that sounds good, but with something like Kaepernick's situation where it was him versus the league for so long, and for all intents and purposes, they're still on those sides technically because he hasn't been signed or hired or anything of that nature. The only way to really demonstrate change is to actually bridge that,
mhm,
you know, that relationship, and then you can have people who have been on both sides of that relationship now be able to discuss this
mhm,
healthy discussion for others to see, and the person who was wronged can say that I was wronged, they did me right, and they've changed, and here's it, and then that's how other people can get on board with the change. Now, I also want to go back to the Drew Brees thing because on the flip side of that, here's somebody who is white, who was in
yeah,
the wrong, and had, Drew Brees is a smart guy, he's a good dude, all
yeah,
intents and purposes. It's like he figured it out pretty quick that, yeah, he was wrong, and it didn't take him long to change his stance once he was educated enough to realize it.
yeah,
And you need somebody who has the approach of what he has to be able to essentially say that he's wrong, and now he's really going to be the poster child for the white guy who got it wrong,
yeah,
you know but because he took a positive stance on his apology, and he's trying to inject certain things to inject change as well because he has a platform and he's got funding and resources and all that good stuff. It's like, okay, we see the white person who was wrong, but now look what they're doing because they figured it out,
yeah,
or they realize it now, and they're learning, and we're making change. We're seeing it happen. It's like you have to be able to see the mistakes happen, and then get corrected in order to really see the change. If the league and Kaepernick situation was to never change,
yeah,
then it would always be, well, they never did this, and he
yeah,
never, and so it's like, and then there's really no change.
yeah,
And so I'm just saying, it's like sometimes you need a really corny event like a handshake with Roger Goodell and Colin Kaepernick to squash beef, and then it's like you can really see, oh yeah, they're embarking this new relationship. Kaepernick's gonna do X, Y, and Z, even
yeah,
if he didn't get, you know what I mean? So
yeah,
like eventually something needs to happen in order to demonstrate good relationships so that you can lead by example.
yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I got what you're saying. I agree with the Drew Brees, what you said about Drew Brees. I think it was a really dumb moment for him. Like
Yeah.
it again, if you follow football at all, like Drew Brees is anything but a racist. Like like what he's done for New Orleans. Like if you really look up what he's done for that community, not
Oh
to
yeah.
mention that New Orleans is quite possibly the richest historical African American city in the United States, is where he
Right.
is the leader of the team, you know.
Yeah.
Like he screwed up. He made some comments at the wrong place, the wrong time. I don't think anyone doubts him being racist. I think people just, I but he got ate alive and it needed to happen. And if you watch his apology video, you can see that he not only, like, you can see the real in it,
Yeah.
like you could see the weight in his eyes as to, like, he realized like how stupid of a comment, like, the comments were.
Oh
um
yeah.
and even like shortly after, his wife even coming out and speaking up and stuff, and it's like, yeah, I think that is
Yeah. Yeah.
speaks speaks worlds to what white privilege looks like, and like what it takes for some people to realize what is going on in the world.
Yeah.
And I think
Yeah.
he's definitely going to be a huge asset to change now. And I don't want more people to make that mistake, but more people to learn from it. Because those are really poorly chosen words that one of the smartest football players in the history of the game chose.
Well, and this is completely unrelated, but like this just bothers me when it comes to famous people and celebrities or whatever. It's just like the same reason why you have enough money to pay somebody to drive you home from a bar after you've been drinking, the way you should never get a DUI. It's like,
Yeah.
have somebody proofread your
Yeah.
tweets. Like, you know,
Yeah.
like here you
Well,
go.
I think he was caught off guard with the question and answered from his heart. And like, and that's like I'm in his, but I technically I relate to it, because like I just admitted, I'm comfortable admitting that like I was against Kaepernick's, the way he went about not what he was protesting for, but the way he went about it at the start, because of the people I know that served in the military, died for our country.
Yeah, I mean,
But
and that's
but that's
serious.
where education comes into play, and that's where I learned. And now I'm embarrassed about it. I'm embarrassed that I have to sit here and say, you know what? I was one of those jackasses, one of those ignorant, white privileged jackasses that couldn't see the bigger picture. And it just took me time, and I see it now. And I think Drew Brees is dealing with the same thing. I just was able to deal with it as an average nobody, where he had to deal with it in front of the entire world.
As one of 32 NFL quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that's where it stings him a little bit more. But I think,
Yeah.
if one person's going to turn it into a positive in the world and in the NFL, it's him. Like he's the
definitely.
one. So
definitely, he can dig himself out of a hole for sure. So
yeah, I mean, he already has, and he's already doing great things, and it's going to be cool to see what he continues to do.
Yeah, no, he's gonna emerge as one of the top leaders in change out of this for sure. So
Yeah.
there's a silver lining in what he said, I guess. But
yeah.
But hey, we've been talking about some serious stuff. Let's move on to something a little bit more fun. One of our favorite segments that we're going to be doing over the course of this podcast is Anthony and I enjoy craft beer. So one of the things we're going to do is basically do what we call a top 5 on tap, where we're gonna drink a beer, and we're gonna maybe talk about the beer a little bit, but we're also, while we drink that beer, we're gonna discuss a top 5 of a special topic, or just today's weekly topic, or whatever it might be. And today it's gonna be we're gonna kick things off with a bang, so to speak, and that's gonna be something that's been near and dear to our little hearts growing up in the 90s, and in the era that we did, and we're gonna discuss top 5 rap groups of all time. And these are our personal opinions. These are our top 5 ranking that we have. So it's like, if you're 10, 15 years older than me, and my number one's not the same, well, that might not have touched my life at that time the way it did yours. So bear with us. These are our personal opinions, and I'd like to kick it over to you and let you you give me your top 5 first, brother. Okay. But first, let's slow it up first. Let's go with the beer, and then we'll get into the top 5.
So I'm embarrassed to admit that I've already failed us in this show on the first episode, and I opened my refrigerator before we hit the live button here, or record button, I guess, and realized that I drank my last real craft beer last night. So I am, unfortunately, on our very first episode, stuck with a Kona Brewing Company Big Wave Golden Ale, which is still a great beer, but maybe not as unique as we'd want it to be. But I know yours is already open, because I know how you are. So I'll oh, you haven't opened it. Oh my gosh. So I figured, how we should do this? We have these fancy microphones. So do you know what ASMR is?
No.
Okay, I got to tell you this before we do this, because it's something that it seriously pains me. So in the gaming world, there's a website called Twitch TV, which is where people go to stream themselves playing video
Right.
games, right? We'll get into details later, but I want to say a few months ago, probably over a year ago now. I think it actually started on YouTube. A couple young, lovely-looking ladies decided that they would wear some skimpy clothes, get a fancy microphone that when you talk into one or the other side, it goes into one or the other
Yeah, yeah.
earphone, and they whisper and they make weird noises. And it's called ASMR. I don't know what it stands for. It is quite possibly the weirdest thing I've ever seen. I'm probably gonna get some hate for saying that, but it's very, very uncomfortable to watch. I highly recommend you looking it up. For people like us, it's uncomfortable to watch. For the people that enjoy it, there's more to it. No one enjoys it because someone's whispering into the microphone. People enjoy it because of who is whispering into the microphone and what they're wearing while they're whispering into the microphone. But it's a complete joke, right? So
Yeah.
so in the world where ASMR is alive and well, this is my version of ASMR. Are you ready?
Yeah, let's hear it.
There it is.
Nice.
That's all you're getting from me.
But I am proud of you, dude. Even though like you dumbed it down, like, oh man, I'm only drinking a big wave golden ale. It's like you reversed like 2 years ago, bro. That would have been like a blue moon or something.
Yeah.
Maybe a light. It's like your palate has come a long way, and I'm super proud of you for that.
Thanks, man. Yeah, as I'm getting older, my palate just took a little time to grow, but I'm starting to get into the IPAs.
The brew capital of like the world, and like
Dude,
Portland.
it's helped a lot. It's helped a lot. I think I've learned that it's just like, a canned beer that's sitting on a shelf somewhere that, was cold at one point and then sat in the back of the store for a few months and then got put up in the freezer out front. It's not good. And that, you start getting those fresh right off the tap IPAs, double IPAs. Then that's where you really get the good taste from. So they've grown on me.
So I'm drinking tonight it's from Revision Brewing Company in Sparks, Nevada. And it's called the Altogether Hazy IPA. And the reason it's called Altogether is it's actually a worldwide collaboration brewed to support hospitality professionals amongst the COVID-19 thing. So
Cool.
a lot of the proceeds of this beer go towards a lot of different resources that are trying to fight the good fight against the coronavirus right now. A lot of different breweries are doing a lot of different collabs like this, and what they do is they basically just come up with it's mostly a very common recipe that is pretty standard, and they share that amongst different brewers, and then they all basically will brew the same recipe and brand it as themselves, and then part of the proceeds get donated, and so everybody has a way to chip in on that. You're basically you can touch more of the market that way, so it's pretty cool. And it's a hazy IPA, which is the North England or New England style IPA.
Nice.
I
That's
didn't
pretty
do
cool.
my little sounder the way you did.
That's
but,
all right. Next time.
so,
It's cool.
yeah.
It kind of ties in with our first episode theme here with all together and supporting, equality and things like that. And I love that we also went with rap groups, even though I'm pretty confident one or two groups on our list may not necessarily be African American. Hip hop and rap is definitely born from African American heritage. So
It's definitely that culture. For sure.
Yeah.
So
am I going first?
Yeah, let's do it. Kick us off.
Okay.
So you want to do like you say number 5, I'll say number 5, or you want to go through your whole list?
Let's try it with we both do our number 5s.
Okay.
Even though we may end up duplicating, I think that's okay.
Yeah,
I think that's okay.
That's
okay, so unfortunately, not to go with African American heritage, my number 5 is the Beastie Boys.
Okay.
My reason is they were absolutely fantastic lyrically. They were one of the, if not the first real um, groups that kind of jumped into rap that was of a different ethnicity, which is I mean, look what we've seen over the years with that when that happens, right? When musicians are just musicians and they do their craft, regardless of
Mm-hmm.
color, you get some beautiful stuff. Beastie Boys is one that they uh they were good lyrically. They were contenders with um a lot of the top African American lyricists of their time. And they also added a lot of humor, which
Yeah.
made their songs fun. Um,
Cool.
so for me, number 5, definitely Beastie Boys.
Solid. Solid, dude. Um, my number 5, not duplicative of the Beastie Boys. But my number 5 is Bone Thugs and Harmony.
Oh,
So, definitely something I can remember sitting in my room as a young adolescent, with my boombox listening to like the Wild 7 at 7 countdown or something like that, just trying to record, the latest songs on my blank tape decks,
mm-hmm.
and I always remember it's always at least one of those songs was on there, and whether it's Crossroads or First of the Month, it's just something that really just shaped that time of your life, and it's one of those bands that no matter what, it doesn't matter how many albums or songs they've had, it's like they've had enough that's ingrained in me, and it still doesn't get old to this day.
Yeah, that's a good one. That is a good one. All right.
But let me start with number 4 since
Okay.
you already named this band. My number 4 is the Beastie Boys.
Okay.
So yeah, much like you, I dig the Beastie Boys, man, and I think that they have had such a long run at this thing. 25 plus years because they
Yeah.
are in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and they've even had one of their members pass away. I mean, that's how long they've been going at this, and they, in a world where it was predominantly dominated by black, when it comes to the hip hop world, especially in the 80s, they were really the first people, white people to do it, and the shoe was kind of on the other foot, and they were sort of getting looked at like, what the hell are you guys doing? Like,
Yeah.
why are you trying to imitate black people? And it was kind of strange for them, but like getting started. But then people started giving them respect because they realized, oh no, these white boys could do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Very much.
It was cool, and they've really, a lot of their albums are very different from one another.
Yeah.
They've messed around with a lot of different sounds, and which is really cool because they've spanned so many different so many different decades, and so you kind of have to change your sound in order to stay relevant over that long period of a time.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to hip hop, because hip hop from the 80s is really different from hip hop in the early 2000s.
Oh yeah.
Especially the way the beats have gone. So to be relevant in all of those decades, I mean, you're definitely doing something right. So the Beastie Boys, number 4.
Very good. Very good. For me, number 4 is Outkast. Outkast is just, such a unique sound. You have Big Boy, Andre 3000, polar opposite in sounds, in styles, yet blend together perfectly. I couldn't see them working with anyone else and be even a 32nd as successful as they were. And great at the storytelling, great at flow transition, just overall hit after hit after hit. I know that could technically be considered a duo, but I think it still counts as a group, so I'm rolling with it.
Definitely still counts as a group, no doubt.
But yeah,
Two
it's disappointing. My was
thing.
yeah.
2 or 4 is a group.
Okay. So unfortunately, not the best ending from what I know. I guess, I believe Big Boy feels like he wasn't as valued as much as Andre 3000, which is kind of surprising because I feel like I see that because Andre 3000 was the flashier one, kind of the more vocalist, but Big Boy, man, that guy could flow like, no other.
There's actually, I forget what platform it is, but I want to say like I watched it maybe within the last 6 months. There was a really cool, sort of like the ESPN 30 for 30s, but there was on like Outcast, and it was like an hour and a half long thing, and it was amazing. And it talked about their relationship, and there's some confusion about their relationship, but I think that for all intents and purposes, they went through a patch where their differences were really sort of separating them apart.
Mm-hmm.
But they're at a point now in their lives where they're both mature, and they still remain the best of friends.
Okay,
So
that's good to know. Maybe we'll get a reunion then. That would be fun to see.
So I mean, maybe not the very, very best of friends, but tons of respect. I think they're still on good terms. There might not be a whole lot of work going involved, but
yeah,
I still think there's respect there. But,
yeah.
Anyway, why don't you just go on to number 3?
Yeah. So number 3 for me is NWA.
Nice.
NWA was the voice for the African American community in a time where they needed one. I think they were the first real big stance against police brutality, things like that, which is really cool. But also, they gave a voice to the frustration that was happening in the African American community. But on top of all of that, no, that's wrong. That's what's on top. But the huge thing is just who they were and where they went after the fact. Eazy-E went on to become, founder of Bone Thugs and Harmony. Dr. Dre, Ice Cube went on. Dr. Dre is one of the, known as one of the greatest producers of all time. Ice Cube was one of the if not the biggest name in gangster rap. So and the presence they had, it's slipping my mind, but just their voice, they carried a powerful message. The message that they carried, that they were going to stand up for what they believed in, even though very aggressive, was during a time that you didn't see anything like that, and it touched all people, including a young white boy like me.
Oh, no doubt.
A little resistance in life is not a bad thing. So they definitely helped you get your aggression out. So that's my number 3 is NWA.
That's a good choice, dude. Nice. All right, my number 3 is the Wu-Tang Clan.
Ooh.
And I mean, there's so many cool things you could say about the Wu-Tang Clan, but I think one of the coolest things was just how big the group was. First of all,
yeah.
I thought it was just super dope. That it wasn't just like the typical 2 or 3 or 4 people. Like this was like, yo, we brought all of our homies from everybody that was in the group. Like we just found a spot for you. It's cool.
Wait, you can throw down a line? Cool. Get in here. You can throw down a line? Let's go. Let's go. Wait, your cousin can throw down a line? Bring him too.
It was just like one big family, man. And I mean, and obviously their their work speaks for itself, and it's just it's amazing. And they have some of the cleanest, dudes who can flow on there, in terms of, like Method Man and Ghostface Killah and even ODB and
ODB was largely underrated.
Oh, for sure.
I think.
No doubt. Not too many other Wu-Tang Clan people can say they worked with Mariah Carey, but he didn't.
Yeah, that's true.
So, but no, and I think one of the other coolest things about Wu-Tang of recent was they had a show on Hulu called I think it was like the Wu-Tang Clan American Saga. It's like a dramatized like not like documentary, but like a TV show series. Like there's a season of it, and it's about sort of the how Wu-Tang came about, like the before, during, and after of Wu-Tang, and they've only gone through one season, and we're still in those before stages, and it's really freaking good. And it just reminds you about about how pure this group was and how, they came from the projects, and this was their way to, number one, deal with what was happening in the projects, but also this was their only ticket out. If they didn't do this, they all thought that they were going to go to jail at some point, And
Yeah.
so, I mean, they persevered, and they lived the American dream, and here we are, man. And they touched so many lives doing it. So Wu-Tang Clan, number 3.
Nice. Very nice. Think you're going to 2? I lost
Yeah, I'm
track.
gonna go 2. In part because you've already mentioned number 2 on my list. Number 2 on my list is Outkast.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. I still listen to Outkast. I'll still listen to him when I go for a run or something like that. I think ATLians just really like burned a huge imprint on my brain and my musical sort of vocabulary and everything at that point. I listened to that song probably 25 times a day when it came out.
Oh, I believe it.
And I think for like the first 2 months, I didn't listen to like the first 2 or 3 songs on that album because like ATLians was like number 4, like track 4. And then so I memorized like track 4 and probably through 8 because like by the time I realized that track 4 was over, it was already on track 8. And then I had to go back to track 4 and start over because that's how much I liked ATLians, But
Yeah.
and then like they kept bringing out more and more music, and they would change their style every time that Andre 3000 would change like his mystique and whatnot, and it was great. And my whole time being a fan of Outkast, like I always loved their music and I love their shit. But that documentary that I was just telling you about, like it really put everything together.
Yeah.
Like
I'm gonna have to
why
check that out.
like why Andre 3000 was a little different, and why like how did he get that way, and just, and it's so interesting, man. It's where it's like these two guys kind of came from different hoods, and then they like went to the same school. They gravitated towards each other, became good friends. They were like the best of friends, always doing all this shit, rapping. And then Andre took a left turn,
Mm-hmm.
and then but they maintained a great relationship for a while, and they had 2 tour buses. One was a sober bus and one was a party bus, because when Andre took this turn, he went sober. And so that's where a lot of their sort of relationships sort of went, sort of separate for a while. But then as they got older, like, they found a common ground again, So, but I mean, their stuff speaks for itself too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Can't deny it.
No. So my number 2 is your number 3, Wu-Tang Clan.
Nice.
I mean, so look, like here's the deal, right? We're raised in the on the West Coast, right? During the coastal wars. Like,
oh yeah.
We're almost kind of raised to hate East Coast rap.
Yeah,
but you can never like. For me, it was always like, oh yeah, I didn't really like Biggie and his crew, Puffy and stuff until later in life, because I was like bred with like, nah, we can't listen to that. Well, I'm still gonna listen to Wu-Tang Clan. Like, we're not gonna, we're just gonna kind of pretend they're not involved with all this, So
before all that.
Yeah, but I think you pretty much hit it on the head with like, and very similar to NWA in the way of where they had their own, a lot of them had their own solo success, but even throughout their solo success, still stayed together as a group. It just helped. It just was so cool. Like they were so unique in their own ways. You had the guys that were like had the serious roles, had their serious messages, and you had the guys that were the jokers but it all kind of came together. And yeah, like I don't even know how many actual members there technically is. I know some have come, some have gone. It's like an ever evolving group.
Well, there's so many people who think Redman is in the Wu-Tang Clan.
Yeah, I know, that's so funny. Like, no, he has never been considered part of Wu-Tang Clan. Yeah. But yeah, like you said, like Method Man, Ghostface Killah, ODB were my favorites. RZA's a good one.
Riz is awesome.
They just
Hey, Riz is the glue. Riz is the glue. He's the reason. He's the reason that they
And I'm not gonna sit here. I'm not gonna sit here and say, you know, I'm some freaking rap know-it-all, but I can comfortably say like Wu-Tang Clan is a group that defines rap and is like and New York rap is where it really began. You know, New York is where rap really came to life, and as it evolved into more, you know, out of the hip hop funk into rap, Wu-Tang had a big role in that. So,
well, check out that show I was talking about too, if you haven't already. I mean, one of the reasons that I say this is because, and this is really what I like so much about music is it's the raw content, right? And what I mean by that is you see in the show. Now, I don't know if this was just for the show or if this was, you know, in a way that they like you know, dramatize it or whatnot, but hang on a second. I think this thing's all screwed up again. Better?
Yep, you're good.
Okay. But in the show, it's like the way they like just randomly like will record like a verse, you know, and it's at a time where these guys were nobody. They weren't anything. They weren't even discovered. They weren't shit. They weren't anything. And it's like in between them, you know, selling drugs over here or doing this over there or doing that, and then like they'll just walk into a room and dude will be playing like a sick beat, and they're like somebody will just start flowing with it, and they'll flip on the record, and then like they're like, oh, you like you're watching the show, and then you realize like, dude, that's the freaking verse from Cash Rules Everything Around Me, like, you know, blah, blah, blah. It's like one of the most famous verses of all time, and it's like oh shit, like you're just whipping that out like after you just made a bologna sandwich in the kitchen, like Jesus Christ, you know?
Yeah. Oh, that's good, man.
So I mean, it's just like check the show out. It's so cool.
Yeah, I will. All right. Are we before we go to number ones? We're on number ones, right? We both are. Yeah. Should we do a couple honorable mentions?
No, let's just do number one, and then we'll go to honorable mention afterward.
Okay. So me, and again, because this is, you know, our personal preference. For me, it's Bone Thugs and Harmony.
Oh, nice.
So Bone Thugs and Harmony, for some reason, dude,
I knew that was going to be on your top 5.
Yeah. I don't know what it is with me and Bone Thugs, dude. I could understand every single word from them, dude. I know, like that's the thing that people don't get. I remember, like, you know, I was actually raised. My early childhood was on classic rock. My mom. We'll probably touch on our childhoods later, but you know, I come from a broken home. My mom was a drug addict, and you know, long story short, music would be playing in the house all the time. It's classic rock. So that's where I didn't really get into rap until I was around 10 years old, which was when I remember being introduced to Bone Thugs and Harmony on MTV Music, Top 20 Countdown, Crossroads.
Yep.
Like the music video was awesome. Like I didn't even know like the value and meaning of the dude coming out as like the ghosts are walking up.
Yeah,
and nodding. Like I had no idea that was Eazy-E or who that was, right? It just like, oh, that's cool that they did that. Like the effects were cool. Right. The song was cool. Yeah. Like it was badass. It ended up being an album that I bought on my own with my allowance at 10 years old. Had to hide it from my grandparents, could only play it. Had to sneak out of my room after bedtime to go into the front room to listen to the album on the front room stereo with my headphones. You know, like I'd have to wait till I could hear my grandfather snoring. I'm like, okay, cool, I can get out, you know, pull the CD out from underneath my bed, sneak out, put my headphones in, and I dude, I'm not even kidding, 10 years old, listening to Bone Thugs and Harmony till like midnight, dude. My grandfather used to always be like, why can you never wake up? Because I've been up in the front room bumping Bone Thugs, dude. Like, so
These lyrics, and then I
yeah.
try to go to bed and I can't go to sleep.
Yeah, but I just like the thing with me, I think, is like I just found it fascinating because of my, which there's no relationship whatsoever. Like Bone Thugs is straight up like hip hop, but because of growing up listening to classic rock and like melodies and singing and things like that, I think the thing that really attracted me to Bone Thugs and Harmony is the dudes could rap hard, they could rap fast, but they could sing like no other. They were the only people doing it at that time.
Yeah, they
Like
had harmony. I mean,
these
like,
dudes,
it's in their name. They had harmony.
well,
You know
yeah,
what I mean?
like they were hardcore black dudes singing and rapping at the same time, and it was just absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, it was legit. I
Um,
love it.
and then like I think it was. So I think that came out in '95. Was I think Crossroads is on East 99 Eternal, and I believe it was '97 when Art of War came out, which was the double disc. And like we're old guys, right? Like we're CDs. Like, whoa, time out. You get 2 discs, like double the music. What is this? So like it was just so cool. And like Crazy Bone, how he was just like so smooth and like mellow, chill, could flow so fast. And you had Busy Bone that was kind of more like they all were fast, right? But like Busy Bone like was the one that really had that like kind of dominant, more like gangster voice to him. Busy, which was like the unique one, very unique voice. Again, fast rapping. And then Wish was like kind of the curveball one who like could rap fast, but was not on the same playing field as the other guys. And then you had Flesh, who was the one that would show up here and there, but he enjoyed spending his days in prison, I think, majority of the time. But he'd come out and he'd have his few songs and stuff. But the main four, like they were just so cool, dude. Like they just sounded so cool. They were so unique. They were one of a kind. And like they even went on and had like their own little individual records. Like I know
Crazy Bone did one.
Yeah, and I know Busy and Lazy did a couple little like duo discs together and stuff, or albums.
The way we're saying their names now, they kind of sound like Disney characters.
I know, right?
Yeah,
like they just it's that it's just one of those things, like it's just a part of my life that like was like it. They were just part of it. So I have this weird relationship with Bone Thugs and Harmony. So number 1 for me.
It's not. I mean, it's not that weird.
No, it's not.
But I mean, my number 1, it's already on your list, is NWA.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, I mean, NWA's. I mean, it's had a huge impact on my sort of music library. And just the history that goes with, Southern California at that time, and just again, like the black community and then the race riots down there, and that sort of time, and what their music stood for, and it really propelled hip hop from a very poppy sound from like the late 70s and 80s into like a very like hardcore street cred. Like, nah, we're not playing around. Like this is the real deal, and this is where you come to air your shit, and this is where we put people on blast, and so and I thought that was cool. I mean, here's a group of guys who literally, had the persona of just, we don't take any shit. Like, we don't care who you are, where you come from. Like, we will go toe to toe, nose to nose, and we're not backing down from anything. And on top of it, their shit was fire. Like, the music was just amazing, and like, I mean, you just think of how many things. You just think of how many things started with NWA though too. Like Dr. Dre, just the mastermind of who he is with he was the mastermind behind every single sound you heard. Whether it's like the like in the background of a song, like, and the way he spun like the funk of certain sounds or beats or guitar melodies or anything from songs of the 70s and weaved them in. Like
Yeah.
that's how he created beats. Like he heard things from different things and decided to put them together.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
was before he was making drum machines and all that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
So it was so original and it was so pure and it was from the sound. Like I'm taking these sounds and creating a better one
Yeah.
versus like I'm just gonna try to digitally bang something out real quick. So
Yeah.
it was way more pure. And then everybody played their part. I mean, you had Ice Cube, who was just this like lyrical genius,
Mhm.
dude. Just knew how to write. He knew how to flow, and he delivered it like he was the attitude in NWA. Like he delivered the attitude so hard.
Mhm.
And then I feel like Eazy-E just like sort of stumbled into this like beautiful circumstance, and but he ran with it, and it was to a guy who didn't really see himself as a rapper going into this, became one of the biggest ones,
Yeah.
because of, again, the mentality and that he had from the street cred that he had.
Mhm.
Like he approached everything like that. So, I've never been a rapper before, but like, yeah, I think we could do this, and like, let me just whip out a song. But because I have this persona, I'm gonna do everything with this persona, and then here it's gonna come out just the way we want it to be.
Yeah.
And then, Dre goes on to do his things. Ice Cube goes on to do his things, and it's just everything culminated from this group, and like the way that these guys spiderwebbed off into their own things, it's just continuously has touched my life like since I was 5 years old.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's just
Even like DJ Yella and
yeah,
MC Ren. Like
yeah.
they didn't go on to big things like the others did, but they were still huge aspects of NWA.
Well,
I-
it was Ren, right, that had the accident with his vocal cords where he couldn't rap anymore.
yes, I believe it was.
And because he was supposedly one of the most lyrically
Yeah.
advanced of them all.
Yeah,
And then
because Yella did Yella went on to write, I believe. I could be pulling that out of my ass. He either
yeah,
wrote or he
they
made
both did.
beats, but
They
he
both
didn't.
did.
Yeah.
Oh,
But when it was NWA, like they just kind of hit it with every part, But it's impressive of how big Ice Cube, Dr. Dre, and Easy, even though Eazy-E's life was short lived, what he did after the fact with Ruthless
oh,
Records
yeah.
was pretty impressive.
Well, and just what they did for what they did for the black community, what they
Yeah,
did for their own community in Compton
for
and Southern California.
music in general. Yeah,
They
like
really took shit to another level,
yeah. I mean, I feel
So,
like NWA in a lot of ways opened the eyes to the youth, white America youth too. Like they want
they
we're part of that. We're part of that. Like I
well,
loved hip hop when I was a kid.
yeah, I mean, there's NWA is what they coined the phrase gangster rap
Yeah,
when they came. You know what I mean? And that is really what basically has. There's this, the song Rapper's Delight, like
hmm
the original one from like the 70s, like that was, and then you got Run DMC, and that's what they thought rap was.
yeah,
Until these guys came along and decided to make gangster rap, and then it really changed. Like, oh, we can really talk about that? Okay, well, let's do it. And then a lot more people started, coming on the scene because it was more and more acceptable because this is an art form. This is real. Like, we can express ourselves however we want, and we're going to do so, and you can't tell us that we can't.
yeah,
You know?
yeah. Great
So,
number one, man.
that's it, dude. Honorable mentions? Any?
Yeah, I'll go real briefly. I'm gonna go Run DMC.
It's one of mine.
You know, really, fathers of rap.
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely.
I think the reason they're not in my top 5 is because they were heavily before my time.
Me too.
So, I mean, technically for me, even NWA was slightly before my time getting involved with rap, but they were still so current that I listened to them so heavily that's why they're in my top they were in my top 5. But Run DMC was a little before my time into that genre. And they were really hot as I was being born. So
Yeah.
but you kind of, they have to always be in the conversation because they were the ones that set the foundation
Oh, for
for
sure. Absolutely.
the African American community to express themselves in other ways of
Well, and
music.
even just
So
little things, right? Like they were one of the first people to get an endorsement.
yeah,
They got the Adidas endorsement,
yeah,
with shell toe shoes, like
my
throwing things up on the map.
Adidas.
I mean, these are little things that nowadays that were monumental,
Yeah,
things in history,
hmm,
back then.
yeah. And then I got 2 others. I'm gonna go Salt and Pepper. Uh, I actually did like their music. I wasn't like a huge fan. I'm putting them in an honorable mention because I think it's well earned, just in the fact of one of the first big dominant female uh,
Oh,
rap
for
hip
sure.
hop groups. So really opening the doors for women.
Mhm.
And their songs were good. They had some big hits. Um, some that were very catchy. So Salt and Pepper, and then my last one. I mean, I have a ton. I actually wrote down a list here as we're talking. They're popping in my head. But I'm not gonna say them all. But I'm gonna go Digital Underground. Just
Ooh,
fun,
I like that.
funky, funny. The birth of Tupac.
I
Uh,
love that.
like
I have a feeling Digital Underground's gonna come back in this podcast again.
yeah,
So, but anyway,
probably. Just just there's something about fun in music that I love. We can real quick. I want to get to yours, but like Lil Dicky. Just
yeah, 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 yeah.
like
Love Lil
when you
Dicky.
can bring when you can
It's
be good.
entertainment, at the
Yeah,
bottom line, it's entertainment,
yeah,
right? And so if it happens to be funny, it's still entertainment.
yeah, yeah.
You
I just
know?
I love. I mean, I love storytelling in music, and rap is like the best to get that from. And meaning in music. Like I'm not a big fan of hip hop these days because a lot of it's just the mumble rap, right?
Yeah.
There's some great artists today, but the heart and soul of hip hop is unfortunately gone, in my personal opinion. Um, but Digital Underground just brought some fun to the show that was, I think, really needed at the time. Things were starting to get kind of serious, competitive. Uh, they were around during the time the West Coast, the West Coast rap was coming up, and the world was starting to see, oh,
Yeah.
the West Coast, can spit some fire too. Uh, they brought some fun to the game. So,
Yeah.
and I had some other ones, but I mean nothing that people don't already know about.
So I've got a couple on my list. You already mentioned Run DMC, so I got a couple others that I'll mention. Naughty by Nature
Yeah,
was one that I really enjoyed. I just, and to this day, like, to me, it's not necessarily about the entire body of work, but it's like they've got a standard 4 or 5 songs that to me are even still huge hits. And like if you still put together like a little gathering of friends and a party, like you still want to throw on OPP. You know what I
yeah,
mean? You still want to like throw on a few songs that are just fun for the group.
yeah,
They never get old. And
yeah.
you're gonna continue to listen to them until we're really old. I mean, that's just the
Oh
way it
yeah,
is. You know. Um, and then the other one for me is Cypress Hill.
Cypress Hill's
Big
good.
Cypress Hill fan. The lifestyle, everything. Love Cypress Hill. I think they had their own challenges in the Hispanic community coming
Yeah,
up as rappers and whatnot, and continuously are prevailing. Another one of those groups has been around for a very, very long time, and still doing their thing.
yeah,
I've seen them live a few times, and it's a hell of a good time, and it's a lot of fun. And you know what? Just another group that continuously bangs out classic hits.
yeah.
So
That's a good one. I like it. I find it funny how how hip hop is so different in acceptance than other. I mean, it kind of makes sense because of where it came from, But then other genres, like if you go back into history, like Eminem, like not saying like they got hammered hard, but the overall consensus of like Cypress Hill or um Beastie Boys, Eminem. The overall reaction was more of like a like what? Like really?
Yeah,
Where
yeah,
like if you go into history with like Jimi Hendrix, things like that, like he was hated at the start,
yeah,
and
yeah,
it's just like it just be and that's like to tie it really briefly back to the Black Lives Matters things, like it like I just don't get it, dude. Like
yeah,
so accepting and things like that. Like and I'm not saying it was beautiful. Like and I mean Eminem, got hounded, that we know from his biographies and stuff like that. Like because being the white kid, but he earned the respect. Where Jimi Hendrix overall was loved, but there's still that group of people that refused to accept him during that time.
yeah, yeah. No,
Where
it's just
Eminem, like he had to work a little harder and a little more unique, but he earned his stripes. Same with Beastie Boys and stuff. Where like just feel like that with hip hop, R&B, and things like that. It truly is about the music. Where it comes from isn't the forefront, and it's just kind of cool.
no. I mean, Eminem's talent is just it's on another level, and
Yeah,
and he's literally one of my favorites, and I will definitely get into that on
yeah,
another episode because I mean, he deserves it. He deserves more time to be talked about, but you know.
yeah.
Anyway, I think we need to do ourselves one quick favor since we're talking about music
Mhm.
and you brought it up. You brought up Digital Underground. I want to ask you a random question. I want to ask you if we had to do karaoke right now and you had to choose one song and one song only, what are you choosing?
Bro, I'm like I'm not a singer, dude.
Well, you
Uh,
gotta do it. You gotta do it.
like you're getting to my head.
There's a gun to your head.
Okay.
You gotta sing the
Oh,
song,
shit.
and you're more than likely you're gonna choose a song that you know the lyrics to.
Yeah.
What is it
Oh
gonna
yeah.
be?
Okay. I'm a cop out here then. Okay. Uh, Journey, Don't Stop Believing. So not because of the Giants games. Uh, Journey just man, they freaking I'm a band, dude.
It's your band.
Yeah, I love
So they
Journey.
made your band. So I've been saving this in my back pocket. So mine, and it's interesting that you brought up Digital Underground tonight, and that's why I asked this random question because my go-to karaoke song is "Freaks of the Industry."
Oh my god.
I mean, for multiple reasons. It's like number one, like you're laughing because you know how fun that
Oh
song is,
yeah, yeah.
and you know that like if I was at a bar right now and it was like midnight, that like tons of people would love the fact that that just came on, and it just so happens that like I mean, at any time, even a cappella, like, I could sing every single word to that song. Like, I don't know what it is, but, like, I've got it like, it's like a monologue just, like, memorized in my brain that, like, at
Oh
any
my
given point,
gosh, dude.
here it goes,
I'm
you
just
know what I mean?
picturing you doing this. That's what's making it so funny.
Yeah, I mean, it's just it is what it is, dude.
Oh man, you're great. All right,
Yeah.
then if you're going with the random question, I'm gonna do one. But I'm gonna steer away from music.
Okay.
Just a random question that actually popped up yesterday. If you had the world's attention for 30 seconds, what would you say?
So 30 seconds can be actually quite a long time to speak,
Hmm.
if you think about it. Um, I mean, that's a heavy question. That's tough to
Yeah,
really think about how I would
I'm
really
going deep, bro.
address the world right now, but I don't know exactly the words I would use, but I know that the message that I would convey um, would just be something along the lines of um, you know take time to reflect on everything based on what's happened in the past, what's happening right now. Like we mentioned before, we're at this pivotal time. And I think in the world's sort of society, not just our nations, in light of COVID-19. So it's
Hmm.
a good time to sort of reevaluate a lot of things and really sort of drop a lot of the bullshit that doesn't really matter as much as the things that really do.
Mhm.
and reprioritize your life in a positive way that is impacting you and others around you, uh, in a way that uplifts people, that empowers you and your family, and you know, and kindness is a muscle, man. It needs to be flexed. It needs to be worked out, and it's not just going to happen on its own, And so if you approach life with that mentality, and I hope, it's easier said than done. I try to do it as best I can myself, but it's not easy. If we all can do a little bit of that, I think that would be my message.
Bravo.
You know.
Well said. Well said. Mine really echoes yours. I think for me, I live my life with a lot of humor. I think, laughing is the best medicine for things going on in life. So my message would definitely, and not just because of what's going on in the world today, but just in general, just have fun, enjoy life, laugh, make others laugh, be weird, be awkward, uh, be humble, and be respectful.
Absolutely.
I know that was a lot shorter than 30 seconds, but I don't
Yeah.
really
So you
think I need to say
probably
more than that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
But you
I
got.
can mic drop.
Yeah. There you
Done.
go.
Who needs
Yeah.
30 seconds? I did it in 10.
Yeah. That
Suck
mic's
it.
gonna echo for like 10 more seconds when it
Yeah,
drops.
see, that's good. I'll stretch it out.
Yeah.
I'll add an echo effect at the end of the podcast, so
Yeah.
we're
There you
good.
go. Yeah. Yeah. For
Oh
sure.
man, well, we're just over 2 hours. We made
Okay.
it through episode 1. Did we? I don't think we bombed. Did we bomb? I don't think we bombed.
I think it was great. I had a lot of
Yeah.
fun, man.
I
This
will
is good.
say. We've been talking about this. Definitely more so you. You're the one that brought this to life. I'm happy you did. We've been talking about this for years. A lot recently. We've done a lot of planning. How episode 1 came about and the topics that we talked on is definitely not how we wanted to do this episode. We wanted to maybe not get so deep, but I feel it's really important that we did.
Yeah. It,
You
it
know,
wouldn't be right to try to release something right now in the way things are happening in our world, and what's going on in all of our communities
yeah,
without addressing it. I mean, to just not talk about it would just be blind, and that's
yeah,
not right.
yeah,
So
and I think we both did a good job at trying to express our support. But as everyone in the world right now, we are not excluded from learning and understanding.
yeah,
So I hope that whoever listens to this appreciates that and understands that we are 110% in support of Black Lives Matter, and so much more. It's more than that. It really is. Black lives are more than matter.
yeah,
They're
oh yeah.
important. They're valuable. Uh, they're needed. Like we joked last night as we were prepping. Like, could you imagine sports? How
Oh
boring sports would be without
yeah,
African Americans.
yeah.
I
Oh,
mean,
dude, like,
basketball, there'd be like a dunk a season if we're lucky.
so
You know?
how the craze for sports is like, oh, you got to mic everybody up, do all that kind of shit. It's like, well, guess what? There's gonna be no fans in the stage. It's like everyone's gonna be mic'd up. You're gonna hear everything. Like it's gonna be awesome.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. So yeah, I think as we come to a close here, I just wanted to repeat our support of what's going on in the world,
yeah,
and we are very much in support of change, and equality, because like I said earlier, man, it's 2020. Why
I
are we
know.
dealing with this? We shouldn't be
Yeah,
dealing with this, man.
it's no
It's
longer like, oh, it's about time. It's long overdue.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know.
So yeah, I think we're good to close, man. You got anything else you want to say before I shut it down?
No, man. And just for anybody out there too. I mean, of the topics we talk about, if you got any comments or questions or want to weigh in on anything, please feel free to drop a comment or let us know, or reach out to us in one way, shape, or form. The conversation doesn't end here.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we're right here on YouTube. This is the audio for these podcasts are also going to be on all the major music streaming platforms: Spotify, iTunes, Google Play. At the least, Stitcher is the big one for podcasts. You know, I'm gonna tinker. Maybe we'll even throw it up on iHeartRadio and Pandora. You know, we want to get it out there just for whoever wants to listen. And we have, you know, the Growed Up Show Instagram account, Twitter account. We both have our individual Instagram and Twitter accounts that are linked down in the description. So we plan on rolling with this. I had an absolute blast. I was giddy at the start. I'm still giddy at the end, man. Like this is just
I can't wait to
this
do
is
this
fun.
again.
So yeah, like Dan said, you know, drop a comment, you know, positive, negative, whatever. We're definitely want to get any and every viewer involved with our conversation. So on that note, Dan, it's been fun. I'm looking forward to next Friday. Yeah, man. So if you toughed it out for just over 2 hours, then, you know, like, subscribe, all that BS every YouTuber says. And we'll see you in the next one.
Yeah, come hang out with us again. Thanks a lot.
Later, guys.